and Sharon Shuri was the disinvestment minister. Once you just compare the working results pre-RIL takeover and post-RIL takeover, there is just no comparison. There is an ocean of difference. Even the British government has privatized the British Airways and the British Rail. You are on the expert committee of the Railway Board, as well as I believe you are an advisor to the Minister of Railways. Have you ever taken up or thought about suggesting to the MR to consider privatization of the Indian Railways? And what is the way to convince the central government to get out from running industries? It is just neither their job nor their cup of tea.
So what's the question?
Should you move towards privatization from the central government?
Again, I love this this question answer session. You're almost like Anna Hazare except in a suit. It's either this way or that way. It can't be. You know, some things are good privatized, some things aren't good privatized. Try privatizing the railways, they'll burn you. I mean, it is India's largest employer by any stretch. A, B, the private sector is only, and as it should be, only concerned with profit. Where are you going to run trains where you've actually subsidized fares? You know, we all blame Air India or Indian Airlines or whatever the hell they call it now. But the tragedy is that they are flying to sectors which are non-profitable. They are flying to those sectors because the government needs to connect parts of the northeast to India. Now, you keep saying, oh, but Air India is not making money. But Air India, to my mind, is doing national service. Ask Naresh Goyal or Vijay Mallya, they will never go there if they didn't have if they don't have a choice. But they're being forced to go there under the Ministry of Civil Aviation's current norms. So, to answer your question, I genuinely believe that the Ministry of Railways cannot privatize the entire railways. So let me tell you what I've done. Number one, I'm consistently pushing for privatization of facilities, but not privatization of railways. So the example that I will give you is, I'm trying to create lounges, not for the rich, because the rich come just in time and get into an air-conditioned coupe, but for the poor which are air-conditioned, which have free water, which have free tea and coffee, which have television, hopefully showing MTV or Channel B or, you know, Dabang rather than Ramleela. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to up the facilities, we're trying to up the catering content. So that's where I'm getting or hoping to get privatization. The second is in the tourism circuit, which is the upmarket tourism circuit. I don't believe the government of India will ever have either the grace or the intelligence, to my mind, to run high-end tourism vehicles like the Palace on Wheels. So we're trying to open out that entire market and give it to people who are in the hospitality business, be they hoteliers or other chains like the Orient Express, Venice Simpleton train group. So those are some of the things we're trying to do. But there's no one size fits all. So it's not as if, oh, tomorrow we go and privatize the railways. You can't. Because the private sector is not willing to, and rightly so. The private sector is answerable to a whole load of shareholders. A, B. Again, it's unfair to say that all public sector companies are inefficient. You have public sector companies that have risen literally from the ashes, no pun intended. Look at Coal India. Look at State Bank of India. Look at ONGC. I mean, these are remarkable companies. These are companies that are doing very, very well. So, you know, to say that all public sector is bad is as ridiculous as saying that all private sector is good. I mean, look at the number of companies that the private sector has destroyed. So, there are examples that abound on both sides of the spectrum. My view on privatization is core competence must be maintained, keeping in mind the lowest common denominator, which means the maximum employment possible without sacrificing service and basic connectivity. And to that end, I think the railways needs to be a public entity for now. We're not as evolved. And you know, the example to Britain is erroneous. I sat on the British Airways board for 6 years. I know the problems that British Airways went through in the last 3 or 4 years. You know, when the prices of oil rocketed to about $140 a barrel, it was chaotic for British Airways. And British Airways cut services and cut products like you can't imagine. So, if someone in India had done it, again there would have been a dharna or a protest or a fast. So it's easier said than done. responsible companies are often accused of irresponsibility the moment they tweak their product offering even slightly. Whereas a public sector company, we tend to be more compassionate even though we're more critical.